This is the color script for the show, and typically what we'll do is we'll take a scene from one scene in sequence throughout the whole film and do a color key, which kind of you can look at it on a single page and sort of get the mood of the whole film, as you go from scene to scene. And this will help then give the lighting team direction in terms of, what lighting and texturing as to how things should feel in each scene and the direction of the light and kind of the overall ambience and feel of the scene. And, Chuck Vollmer, who is just amazing with color, just did a great job of, putting out all these keys. And then, what you see in the show is remarkably similar to this. It just, really, really flowed across and came out in the final animation.
This is what we do sometimes on the show, because it's the magic of movie making. We can take a set that we've used before and turn it into something entirely different. Well, not completely different. These are both inventors, but
Blunders in Boo Booville, which was on Abe and the Amazing Promise. The inventor character that Larry played, kind of had his little cottage, and we just thought that we wanted a similar feel for Gelato's workshop, and so Joe went in and redressed a set that we had already had, so we were able to just pull out elements that worked and add to it, and just saved ourselves a lot of work. And like Joe mentioned, we'll do that. A lot of times we'll just figure out, we'll go into our back a lot and say, hey, what can we reuse that's going to work great for this story, that'll save us some time and work well in context. It was interesting going into this story, to read the script. The world feels really big. You have this Italian town, and then you have this waterfront carnival, and you have the ocean and the beach and the whale, the inside of the whale. And so we wanted to kind of really draw down the size of the world. And it's interesting, if you were to look at the computer file of this entire world, it's very, very small. This whole thing takes place on this little Italian island. And so we've got this little street front outside of Gelato's shop, and you can walk down the street a little bit, and there's the museum. And there's really not a whole lot to it, but once you start, kind of putting your cameras in and sort of tricking the eye and putting some background flats in, you get this nice feeling of a large village. But the buildings were fairly modular, and we only made a few and then sort of dressed them up differently.
Yeah. Chuck was really good about deciding which windows would be small, which windows would be big, which doors would go with which buildings, and mixing them up a lot. And in the same way that you design a character, you design a building, you design a house, and you keep certain things big and small just to give it a lot of, character and charm.
Gelato is a wood carver, a toy maker, and so, Joe just populated his workshop with little toy animals, and I see some inspirations from other shows there.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I wanted to do the Boo Bird.
The Boo Boo Bird? Or
the Boo Boo Bird, yeah.
Boo Boo Bird.
The pig from Wizard of Oz. The chocolate bunny from Rack Shack and Benny. And obviously the Jonah whale.
Yep, and it looks
Mike
like
actually
Reginald
has a carved Jonah whale that looks almost exactly like this, only it's all wood. And it's beautiful.
It's plaster. Yeah, it's the actual maquette that was made for the film itself. They actually, for the Jonah film, we actually made the whale in three-dimensional plaster. One of our modelers did it that way before he built it on the computer, just to give himself a point of reference.
Brilliant. And then the camel was sort of
like Reginald from Jonah as well.
Sort of like Reginald. And then a giraffe, because he was easy. When I first heard about these puppet characters, I was thinking, well, how do you do a puppet in a VeggieTale world? And I immediately thought of just big floppy-headed characters that kind of reminded me of some old shows that I used to watch when I was a kid, where it was just like you just see their mouth open, and there was no cheek or anything movement there. It was just there was clearly a hand right behind it, opening and closing, almost like glorified sock puppets. And I always loved these little Punch and Judy plays where, you see them in a lot of old period cartoons, and where it's basically one guy chasing another guy, or the wife chasing the husband, hitting him with a little, rolling pin or something on the head because he's done something silly. And I just wanted to do something that was that had that look to it, and these were actually one of my favorite things. I think when I finished designing these, I actually sat back and was like, I want one.
All right, here's the Rainbow of Fortune, which is the roller coaster game that Junior plays. It's sort of like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire meets a roller coaster. It's just this idea of it's just this lonely carnival. There's nobody else there except for Junior and the Scallions. They sort of bring him there to take his gold coins away from him. So it kind of has this, fun feel, but yet lonely feel to it.
Yeah, kind of like those carnivals that come into your town every year, and you're a little afraid of the rides, but not because they're scary, but because you just hope they've screwed it on right, like every bolt. But yeah, so it's got this kind of traveling carnival type feel.
Yeah, that's true. Like it could be torn down and set up at another seaside town along the way. But this is kind of a breakout of that set for detail, so the modelers can look at it closer and really get an idea of how to build it. Because, Joe will design something by hand and with pencil and paper, scan it into the computer and paint it, but then it's got to be modeled in 3D, and to do that you kind of have to have more of a schematic feel to it, so
Yeah,
they can look at it and say, okay, this is the real three-dimensionality of this model.
Yeah, you got to build. You got to almost build it like an architect. Even though these shows are shown on your TV, these characters are actually walking around on a little tiny stage, and everybody who works on the film, they have to light it like they would light a little stage, like if you went to a play, or build the sets, like if you were to watch a claymation show. I mean, it's the same thing. It's just done on the computer. Now, having worked at a theme park for about 5 years when I was going through college and my first year out, the first summer out, I really got familiar with the section of the theme parks where people are caught up in games of chance, and I've lost a pretty penny on trying to win a stuffed animal for somebody. So it's it was really kind of fun to just think of all the games that took my money. The odds of winning those bottle tosses, they're designed so that it's almost impossible to win it. That's why they had the biggest stuffed animals. But when I was 6 years old, young Joe Spadaford threw a loop up in the air because my dad gave me one of them to throw, and I got it. I won this gigantic, I don't even know how we fit it in our car, this gigantic buffalo that was Buffy the Buffalo. And I tried riding him once, and all the styrofoam fell out.
So here's the inside of the whale as they discover the brothers' boat, and them singing the meatball song. And, we talked about this wanting to kind of make allusions to Jonah as well. There's obviously, there's that parallel between the story of Jonah and Pinocchio and the whale. And, we kind of wanted to have a flashback to a little bit of our Jonah interior of the whale scene. But, in Jonah, we had a huge, choir of angels, and, it needed to be much bigger. So we wanted to kind of bring it down into kind of a more cozier feel here.